Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. Have you ever wondered if love can survive the darkest of times? Can two people facing life's most unexpected challenges find a way to be together? What if a single moment could change everything? In today's story, Alex is torn between his career and his love for tuna. But what happens when a life-threatening diagnosis shakes their world? Is it a test of their bond? Or will it be the end of everything they've built? Stay with us until the end to discover whether love can truly overcome all obstacles. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and help us reach 10,000 followers so we can bring you even more captivating stories like this. You won't want to miss what happens next. Trust me. Alex stood quietly in the guava garden, the soft light of the early morning casting a golden glow on the ripe fruits hanging on the trees. He gazed at them, the peacefulness of the scene offering him a fleeting sense of calm. "I'll probably buy these guavas and sell them at the market," he said, his voice steady but his mind elsewhere, wandering to Tuna. From a distance, Tuna appeared, her presence subtle yet noticeable. When their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them. Her gaze, serious yet warm, made Alex's heart flutter, though his mind remained occupied with the uncertainty of their relationship. She had not yet responded to his confession, and Alex couldn't help but wonder if she even shared his feelings. Their conversations were light, filled with small exchanges about business, yet behind every word was a deeper connection, a longing for something more. But Tuna remained distant, her eyes betraying a hesitance that Alex couldn't ignore. Even in these seemingly ordinary moments, Alex felt a growing weight on his chest, wondering if he would ever hear the words he desperately longed for from her. As the day wore on, Alex's thoughts shifted between the tasks at hand and his growing affection for Tuna. Yet, despite everything, he couldn't help but feel as though something was missing, some clarity that had yet to materialize. Their bond was something tender, yet unspoken, and Alex could only wait, hoping for the day when Tuna would give him the answer he longed for. The news came like a storm, unexpected and heavy. Tuna, after feeling unwell for days, was rushed to the hospital. The doctor's words hit Alex like a blow. Tuna had cancer. It felt as if the ground had shifted beneath him, and the world stood still for a moment. He had been through many challenges as a CEO, but this was a battle of a completely different magnitude. His hands trembled as he reached out to hold hers, feeling the weight of her fear, the uncertainty of what lay ahead. "Don't worry, I'll be fine," Tuna said, her voice shaky, but trying to mask the fear she felt. Alex's heart tightened as he tried to reassure her, but the words felt hollow in his throat. Nothing could erase the terror that had suddenly gripped them both. For Alex, it was no longer about work or the future of his business. Everything took a back seat to this, to the love of his life facing an uncertain future. His mind raced, filled with thoughts of what he could do, how he could help. But all he could offer was his presence, his unwavering support. He vowed to be by her side through every treatment, every step of the journey, no matter how difficult it became. But in the deepest part of his soul, a terrifying thought gnawed at him. Would love and hope be enough to overcome such a cruel reality? As he looked into Tuna's eyes, he silently promised her that no matter what, he wouldn't leave her side. As the days passed, Alex never left Tuna's side. He watched her with a mixture of hope and fear, unsure of how to handle the growing tension between them. Despite his efforts to stay strong, Alex couldn't help but feel a distance between them that was hard to bridge. Tuna, though grateful for his presence, remained emotionally closed off, as if the weight of her illness had created an impenetrable wall between them. Every time Alex tried to talk about their future, Tuna's eyes would cloud over, and she would deflect, unwilling to make any promises. Her mind was consumed by her diagnosis, and while she deeply cared for Alex, the uncertainty of her situation made it hard for her to imagine a future with him. She wasn't ready to take that step, not while she was still fighting for her life. Alex, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking about the future they could have together. He saw glimpses of the woman he loved, moments where she let her guard down, but each time she pulled away again, leaving him standing on the edge of uncertainty. He understood her hesitation, but the question lingered. Would she ever be able to open her heart fully to him? And would he be able to keep waiting, knowing that every day was another step closer to an answer he wasn't sure he was ready for? In those quiet moments, Alex couldn't help but wonder, were they moving toward a future together, or was he merely a part of her past that she couldn't fully embrace? Only time would tell. Just when Alex thought he couldn't bear the weight of uncertainty any longer, a surprising phone call shattered everything he had been feeling. The doctor had called to clarify the situation. There had been a mistake. Tuna's test results were misinterpreted. She did not have cancer. The relief that flooded through Alex was overwhelming, but it was quickly followed by confusion and disbelief. How could this have happened? The last few days had been filled with so much fear and despair, only to be undone by a simple error. Tuna, who had been bracing herself for the worst, broke down in tears of relief, but also of frustration. It was hard for her to believe that all the pain, all the emotional turmoil they had been through, was based on a mistake. Alex stood there, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions. He couldn't decide whether to laugh or cry. In a way, the false diagnosis had brought them closer, forcing them to confront their feelings in a way they never had before. But now, everything felt fragile. The reality of the situation hit him. Was he truly relieved because Tuna was healthy? Or was he just relieved that the storm had passed? The question lingered in the air, as both Alex and Tuna struggled to reconcile what had happened with the emotions they still held for one another. But at that moment, it didn't matter. The nightmare was over. Tuna was free from the looming shadow of illness. However, the emotional scars remained, and now they had to face a different challenge. What did this all mean for their relationship? And how would they move forward? With the fear of illness behind them, Alex and Tuna found themselves at a crossroads, though the uncertainty now stemmed from a different source. Tuna's health had been restored, but the emotional toll of the past weeks had left deep marks. Alex, eager to move forward, continued to show his unwavering support. Yet Tuna couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She had spent so much time grappling with the idea of survival that she had neglected the question of what she truly wanted from her future. One evening, Alex sat across from her, his gaze full of hope, but also tinged with sadness. "Tuna," he began, his voice soft but firm. "I've stood by you through this, and I don't want to wait any longer. I need to know if you feel the same way. Will you be with me?" Tuna looked at him, her heart heavy. Her love for him was undeniable, But the scars of the past few weeks, the fear, the uncertainty, made her hesitate. "I do love you, Alex," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But I need time. I need to figure out who I am, what I want, and where I'm going. I can't promise you anything right now." Alex's heart sank, but he nodded, understanding her need for space. "I'll wait for you," he replied quietly. "I'm not going anywhere." Despite her words, Tuna couldn't help but feel the weight of her decision. The past had taught her so much about what really mattered. In the quiet moments when she was alone, the memory of Alex's unwavering support and love brought her peace, but also the painful realization that she was torn between two worlds, one of safety and solitude, the other of love and the unknown. Her decision was no longer about survival. It was about choosing love, about trusting her heart again. As days passed, the tension between Alex and Tu Na deepened. The decision Tu Na had yet to make weighed heavily on both of them, casting a long shadow over their fragile connection. For Alex, the quiet moments spent in her presence were a mixture of yearning and patience, waiting for a sign, an answer, anything that could bring clarity to the path they should walk together. One evening, Tu Na invited Alex over to the farm. The setting sun cast a soft glow over the horizon, and the tranquil atmosphere seemed to reflect her inner turmoil. Alex, sensing something had shifted, came with an open heart, ready to face whatever decision she had made. "Alex, I've thought a lot about us," Tuna began, her voice carrying a heavy weight. "I've been so afraid of what could happen, but I realize now that I don't want to live in fear anymore. I want to take the risk. I want to be with you." Alex's heart skipped a beat, his breath caught in his throat. This was the moment he had waited for, the moment he had hoped for. But as he stepped closer to her, ready to embrace her, Tuna hesitated. "But," her voice faltered, uncertainty creeping back into her eyes. "But I'm still scared. What if we're not strong enough to face what's ahead?" The question hung in the air like a storm cloud, and for a moment the world seemed to freeze. Alex looked deep into her eyes, his hands trembling as he reached for hers. "We don't have to face it all alone. We face it together. And that's enough." Tuna's breath caught in her throat as she held his gaze, feeling the weight of her own fears, but also the undeniable truth that her heart belonged to him. In that moment, everything else faded away. The uncertainty, the fear, the doubt. All that mattered was the love they shared, the hope for a future together. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was real. The night grew darker, but the warmth between Alex and Tuna lingered, like a gentle flame that refused to be extinguished. They sat together in the quiet of the farm, the weight of their words settling in the space between them. In that silence, they didn't need to speak anymore. Their hearts had found a rhythm, a shared understanding of what they had been through and what they were willing to face together. Days passed, and though the fear and uncertainty of the past still hung in the air like a distant storm, there was a calmness that had settled over them. Tuna's decision to open her heart to Alex was the beginning of a new chapter, but both of them knew that their journey would not be without its challenges. The scars of the past, the lingering doubts, and the fragility of life would always be there. But they had each other, and in that simple truth, they found strength. One evening, as they walked through the guava garden once more, Tuna leaned her head against Alex's shoulder, a small smile playing on her lips. You were right, she whispered softly. Love doesn't make things perfect, but it makes it worth it. Alex smiled, the weight of his own fears lifting. I'll always be here, Tuna. No matter what happens, we'll face it together. And in that moment, beneath the moonlight, they both realized that no matter where life led them, the love they shared would be enough. There would be no more uncertainty, no more hesitation. The future was uncertain, but together, they would make it through. As the night embraced them, their hearts beat in unison, steady and strong, ready to face whatever came next. The storm had passed, and now they could finally rest in the peace of knowing they weren't alone anymore.
Câu chuyện xoay quanh Alex, một siêu hình dạng và tử na, người phụ nữ anh yêu. Sau một lời tỏ tình chưa được đáp lại, cuộc sống của họ thay đổi từ khi tử na đột ngột nhập viện vì chẩn đoán mắc căn bệnh ung thư. Alex dù bận rộn công việc quyết định ở bên chăm sóc cô, nhưng thật sự lo lắng và sợ hãi quyết định căn bệnh là mối quan hệ của họ phần mơ hồ. Tuy nhiên, bác sĩ thông báo kết quả xét nghiệm bị nhầm lẫn và tử na không mắc ung thư. Cả hai phải đối diện với một quyết định quan trọng: liệu tình yêu của họ có đủ mạnh mẽ để vượt qua thử thách và đưa họ đến một tương lai bên nhau không?